Come on, you know what it is. It's Thursday night. It's 9 p.m. My name is Dan Lewis, and this is on the Bywire. Bywire. What's good, people? What would a show be without me getting my words mixed up? You know how man does. It must be that feeling for the weekend. I'm just getting a bit excited. I hope you guys are too. Obviously, we've got a jam-packed show again today. We're going to be looking at a few subjects. Headline on the show tonight, talking about the extremism of misogyny. Like, do you know what? Yeah, real talk, man. When I started looking into this, I was surprised, and then I started to link the dots, and we will get into it later on. Also, we're going to be looking at our independent media partners' coverage of the news that's going on around the UK or around the world even. And also, we've got our brother Tom Williams is going to be joining us at the end of the show to talk about this week in football, the relationship of the media and football as well. That's becoming a weekly, I'm loving that weekly dose of football and sports we're getting on the show. So done know. I'm looking forward to that. Let's get straight into the team, people. Like I say, we have got the news you know you can trust. Come on, easy. Right, so we're going to bang straight in to Byline Times. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we covered a story about Beirut and 1 year on. And now what we're doing is we're looking what's going on there and exactly what's going to happen next. So first of all, it's Beirut's ashes 1 year after the port explosion. Lebanon is on its deathbed. This is by Tom Much, doing bits out here in Byline Times. This article, do you know what? Right. So basically, what Tom's looking at here is like Lebanon. As a country, it was somewhere where many refugees, people seeking asylum from Syria when the war there was going on, and it's got its own troubles internally, its own governmental problems. But like a year ago or 2 years ago, it was being looked at as like the Switzerland of the Middle East. There was a lot of opportunity coming up there. There was a lot of investment in different areas, and people were looking at it as a place that might spring some hope, might spring some opportunity for people. And after the explosion, Beirut, it's not looking too great, really. And the way they end the article is looking at the hope that is there, the hope amongst the communities. What's beautiful is that amongst all of this, amongst the rubble, amongst the ash, there is some hope. And that hope has come out of the people with different backgrounds, different kind of views on politics and the world. Exactly, what it is like they can do when they come together to try and overcome an issue, which is obviously the explosion from last year. Now, you guys remember those scenes. That was a massive explosion, kind of thing we don't really see. We don't see day to day, you know what I mean? It's not often that you see an explosion of that size in the news or going on anywhere in the world. Now, Tom gives us really takes us on a journey here, talking about where they were sitting at a rooftop bar in the once vibrant Lebanese capital, as he says here. But like they noticed that there was like these black lines appearing on their arms, which is basically all the ventilators people are using, ventilators or like air conditioning systems that people are using to keep the dust inside their houses clear and clean, creates this mist of dust around the city that when you're out and about, it ends up on you. Still in the city, you do see piles of rubbish. The shops that had all kinds of things. You'd be walking around, you'd be seeing beautiful jewelry shops and clothes and luxury goods. They're not there anymore. The hospitals, they don't even have the medicine, the vaccines that they need to help people. There's a story there about a young girl that unfortunately they didn't have the antidote for a scorpion sting. So unfortunately she died. And this is a simple thing that they would just have normally, but they've not been able to get those imports into the capital since there was that explosion on the docks. Like at the end of the day, we don't realize it. Me, myself, I live here right by the Liverpool docks. I don't realize how much comes in through those docks, not just for us here in Liverpool, but for the whole of the UK. You see those boats coming in and out. When we sit on the beach, you see them coming in and out every day. They're full on their way in, and then they're going out with empty containers there. That's because they're bringing all the bits that we need. And just imagine your main dock, for your city, for your country, isn't able to operate anymore. You've got to find different ways of bringing things in. In 1 year, look, I wasn't really going to mention it, but look what's happening with Brexit, right? So the European Union for us was our import, right? That's where we got a lot of stuff coming in. We're having to do new deals. Look what's been happening. Shelves in shops are empty. People have been struggling with getting access to medicine on top of the coronavirus pandemic. And even to the point now where, over in the islands, they've got chicken in Nando's, but here in the UK, we don't have chicken in our Nando's. And that's because one of our main access ports, or access areas, which is the EU, has been lost, and we're having to find new ways. And we've got, people would say, a developed and advanced government. Well, look how they're handling that. Imagine over in Lebanon, where you already do have issues within the government, similar to over here, it's corruption and stuff. They've lost their main import place where they import goods, and it's a big struggle. Obviously, it highlights the protests that went on, the anger that there is from the people towards the government. They're calling for transparency. They're calling for accountability from the government over there, and rightly so. Like I would be too. I think it's the article ends where they've spoken to many different people. They've spoken, people involved in the government, the investigations that have gone on. It really goes into detail on that side of things. But also, there's a guy, Hassan, who says what we need now is a new secular political system that takes us away from sex and sects. And treats us all as individuals worthy of respect. In a way, is that the journey? Is that the path that Lebanon's going to take? Hopefully so, for those people that live there, even to the point, some of the refugees that left Syria to seek refuge are now going back. They're going back to Syria because they can seek a better life there. It's crazy, the situation. So big up Tom for covering that article. It's important that we remember the people of Lebanon who are struggling through that, and let's not forget the fact that just like anywhere else, the kind of investment that goes into those places is just like here in the UK. We see last week Rishi was talking about big investment in big companies, but we're not really going to see that money being spent on the people. It's like minimum wages. Same over there. When the big companies invest, it's about bringing back business to get money rolling through rich people's pockets, but never really with the interests of the people. And it's the people there in Lebanon that are actually bringing that local economy back into play. So hopefully there is a sign of hope over there in Lebanon, and that they do have brighter days ahead. Let's hope it's not, as Tom says, in the title there. Let's hope that it's not on its deathbed and there is a beautiful future there. Now, sticking with Byline Times, they've been doing bits today, covering a lot of stuff going on. Real talk. UK universities received at least £190 million from major arms manufacturers in the past 8 years. Now, this one shocked me, like I was thinking to myself, really? Like, come on. But then I thought about it and I was less shocked. I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. But it's a mad thing when you see the money from arms manufacturers going into our education system. Obviously, these are universities, slightly different to obviously schools or colleges. But let's be honest. Now, got to highlight, obviously, the people involved in this was Joe Creffield, Murray Jones, and Jake Tachi. and it was a collaboration of the Byline Intelligence Unit working with Action on Armed Violence. That's BITE and AOAV. When you read the article, you'll see a little bit more about those groups. But basically, they sent off freedom of information requests to 76 UK universities, asking for the total amount of funding that they had received since 2013 from 11 major arms manufacturers. The total that came back was 189,970,044 pounds, which rightly so raised questions about, what kind of research is going on into their funding in British higher education. The companies that were funding, or the ones that are in question: BAE, Babcock, Kinetic, Rolls-Royce, Serco, Cobham, Raytheon, Airbus, General Dynamics, Leonardo MW, and Lockheed Martin. Yeah, do you know what? Yeah, it's mad, all these big arms companies, you don't hear about them going under with all these, when there's financial crashes or coronavirus, they aren't affected. These lot are still making peas, bro. Honestly. I wonder who's buying all these weapons, terrorists? Who's selling all these weapons? Our government. It's just crazy, right? But real talk, what they're funding is actually, what we find out in the article, really hard to find out. Now, why is this important? Because at the end of the day, right, my view on it is that why do we have these weapons? Why do we need these weapons? What do these weapons get used for? We talk a lot on this show about the impact that the British government, imperialism, basically capitalism has an effect on the global south, what's been happening in the Middle East, how the terrorists get hold of the weapons that they do use. And at the end of the day, it's these companies that make the weapons. So they are responsible, overall for a lot of the atrocities that we see in the world. And it's sad to think that, these companies, they're making profits out of, and I've said it many times before, they're making profits out of the fact that children are dying, hospitals are blowing up, and communities are being absolutely devastated. It's absolutely fucking horrible. That's all there is to it. Now, when these guys at Byline Times, the investigating unit, they looked into it, they really struggled to get information from some of the universities. Out of the total number, I think only 11 came back as not actually receiving any funding. But there was the King's College London, University of Cambridge, Oxford University. Oxford only provided information on funding received from 3 companies, and some others were a bit shady. They were like, oh, well, we got money, but we can only give you a bracket. It was between this much and this much. So, why would you do that? Clearly, you've got something to hide. No? Do you get me? This is where it gets shady as well. Why would you get shady? Then when the companies themselves were questioned about the money that they're putting into these universities, why they're putting the money into these universities, they also were a bit shady. Rolls-Royce was like, well, that's only 25. Arms is only 25% of our business model, or 20 something percent. And we also do this, but we also provide engines. Our engines may get used in machines that have weapons on them. And it's like, bruh, you're proper reaching, fam. Do you know what I mean? You know them ones where you're watching your brother or sister try and lie to your mum and dad, yeah? It's like that. It's like that when you're watching Rolls-Royce try and defend themselves on this one. Nah, fam. You make elite cars and engines, and the engines end up getting used. Not all the time, but they end up getting used in war, right? And this. This is happening. So stop trying to hide it. But the amount of money is worrying. The research that's actually happening, they talk about, research into trying to reduce carbon emissions, trying to get themselves to zero carbon by 2050. It's meant to be 2030, by the way. Yeah, these companies, they love it. We're aiming, because by the time you get to 2050, think about it, right? That we're 2020 now, yeah, or 21, right? That's 30 years away, right? So I'm gonna be 60. Do you know what I mean? They're just gonna keep moving it on and on and on. That's the thing in it. So no, 2030, you got 9 years, people. If you don't do it in 9 years, the world is done. Anyway, back to the story. You gotta pick up on these environmental things. The media don't do this, you see. That's the mainstream media, they don't pick up on it. Obviously, Byline cover the thing here. But what they're talking about is also like clearing of nuclear waste or clearing of chemical waste and stuff. So it's like, what? Surely you should be looking at not contaminating anywhere, not ending up with this waste in places, rather than having to clear it up. Your research should be, how can we do this without damaging the world? But then again, these are arms companies, so it is what it is. You know what they're saying. So check out that one there. Big up Byline Times for covering that. You know you ain't going to see that one in the mainstream, man. Real talk. Now, keeping it independent, keeping it media, it's the news you know you can trust. Before we do head on, I'm going to ask you a little favor, my people. See, there's a little like button there. Hit that for me. Make the like numbers go up. Make sure you hit share, retweet. If you're not already on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button and check us out on bywire.news. You know what it is. Come on. Now, moving over to where are we going next? We're going to the Canary. So this is a part of our headline story. There's an inquiry launched into police firearms in the wake of the mass shooting that just happened last week. Now, this, for me, this just highlights the absolute absurdness of the just weapons, really, in general. Like, so basically, a review is being carried out into the police force, which gave Jake Davison his license and gun back just weeks before he killed 5 people in one of the UK's worst mass shootings. Now, Devon and Cornwall's police firearms licensing procedures, they basically, the National Police Chiefs Council are going to be overlooking that. And this is the 3rd investigation in the events of last week, where, you know, the names are mentioned in the article. I think it's really sad, like anyone dying, but in these circumstances, excuse me, man's got the voice back, but still a little bit dry out here, you get me? But vaccination number 2 coming soon, bruv. But yeah, so what's happening with this one is that the guy got his license back like last year, after being told to go on some anger management course. And it's like, surely, like, there should be some aftercare, some kind of looking into this. You know, weapons overall are illegal. You're not allowed to hold a weapon in this country, and there's a reason for that. But the police are just acting like, oh, you know, it's our process. You know, if a white man needs a gun, then we need to make sure he's got one, if he's got a license. And I think it's crazy. There's a statement from the Police and Crime Commissioner Alison Hernandez for Devon and Cornwall, and like, it says all the right words, but does it have the meaning behind it? You know, the community have our support. The investigation, the constable who's organizing a review of everything, has my full support. I'll be standing by them. But what does that mean? What does that really mean in terms of, like, not just for Devon and Cornwall, but for the rest of the UK? What implications does this have in regards to reviewing the people that do have access to weapons, the way in which the police will be processing arms licenses in future? There's a lot more to it, and I think it's great that the Canary have actually taken this article on and looked into it, because, you know, looking at the Davison, the guy with the gun, you know, he'd received mental health support during the coronavirus lockdown. His mum had struggled to find access to mental health support as well. And on top of that, you look into the social media usage, which suggested an obsession with insult culture, which perfectly leads me on to our next piece. This one from, we're going back to Byline Times on this one. So just want to shout out Dr. Maria Norris for highlighting this one. which is counter-terrorism. Why is the deadly misogyny not recognized as a form of extremism? You know, the counter-terrorism unit within the police have got a lot of questions to answer here. Now, specifically, what I was just mentioning before about the incel kind of community, which is like an online community. It's a really, really deep I want to say weird, but like at the same time, it's very explainable. And what this article attempts to do from Byline Times or Dr. Maria Norris is actually explains a bit more about it. Please definitely do check it out, because in the middle of the article there is also a piece again from Byline Times from Sean Norris that talks about the radicalized extremist community of white male supremacists, incels. Now, what we're basically saying is the way in which we try and categorize people when it comes to these things. The first thing that happens when there was the reaction to what happened online was everyone, like I think it was the MP, straight away said, "This isn't terrorism." And like my first thought, right, as a brown man in this country, my first thought was, oh, the guy must have been white. Do you know what I mean? Like, put it this way, yeah. Tom, what's good, man? I'm going to bring you back in a minute. But me and who's more likely to get an arms license out of you and me?
Well, I think we both know the answer to that question, don't we, mate?
There we go.
I mean,
it's crazy, right? But so we both know the answer to that question. But this is it, right? And I think I shared the picture. Was it Family Guy, where they're like customs coming through on an airport, and it's like you've got the color chart like you would do at a paint shop, B&Q, and it's like, okay, and then it goes to dark, terrorist. But what we need to understand is the types of extremism there are. The government, you know, there are members of the conservative government who have called who have called people on the left of politics left-wing extremists. Now, I know a lot of lefties. I'm in that crowd, right, of lefties, and they generally talk about saving animals. Like, everyone's really annoyed at the moment about the alpaca. They're like, we must do something to save Geronimo, the alpaca. They want to save the alpaca. We've got to do a human chain around the alpaca and save him. And it's like, is that the kind of extremism that's going to lead to man running around with guns? Now, back to Byline Times. Obviously, here they've highlighted also many other similar types of terrorist incidents. I'm going to call them terrorism, right? Because when someone goes out with an ideology or a belief, not specifically political or religious, an ideology or a belief, and causes terror amongst society, it's terrorism. If you're terrorizing people, it's terrorism. And the other ones is, you know, there was the Charleston church shooting. There was over in New Zealand, there's many other, you know, Charlottesville in Virginia. There's the teenage neo-Nazis that were jailed in London for terrorist offenses. You know, the list goes on and on and on. The Finsbury Park Mosque, you know, the guy who run and slammed an egg on Jeremy Corbyn's head, man. These people, it's extremism, extreme ideas where they're willing to go out and attack people. They're willing to go out and try and kill people, hurt people, cause terror. Now, specifically in this case, what we're looking at is a group of people who have got an extreme idea around their view of women and the way that women should be treated, which also links to white supremacy. We need to be honest. At the end of the day, white supremacy, right? And this is why they're scared to attack it. And I'm giving you my opinion here. But white supremacy is very, very closely linked to capitalism, right? Think about it. Capitalism keeps the white man rich. Capitalism does not survive without racism. Racism is required for capitalism to keep bringing the money into the pockets of the very rich white men, right? And there's a link there. And as soon as they start tapping into that, they start to break away at capitalism. Now, I'm giving you my view on that one, right? So take it how you want to see it. But that's why a lot of these people who are in power are scared to link these kind of things into extremism. Terrorism, calling, you know, men wearing turbans in the desert terrorists, calling brown people who have got foreign religions and foreign ideas compared to the capitalist ways of Britain terrorists, is great for their narrative. It is great for their narrative so that they can keep people scared of them. But the ones here in the UK, like the guy who killed Joe Cox, obviously that was slightly different. That was to do with far right extremism. But you know that it wasn't terrorism. It was mental health issues. He was let down by the mental health services, and you see the different. Oh, poor. What about people who get into religious extremism? Do you think maybe they needed some mental health support? But they don't talk about that, do they? You know. And you see the comparisons and you see the difference. I think it's brilliant that Byline, there's a double article really here, because there's the article here where we look at the fact that there needs to be a big look into the way in which we look at and understand extremism and the way terrorism is spoken about, the way it is categorized, but also the fact that the people who are in charge aren't doing a very good job, in charge of keeping us safe, aren't doing a very good job at keeping us safe. Now, I've gone on a massive rant on that one. I apologize, Tom. So the show, as always, is going to run over. Don't worry about it. It is what it is. Welcome to back to the show, Tom. It's good to have you on. What has been going on in the world of football this week? What are we covering?
Well, good
start
for Liverpool. Rubbish start for Southampton. Harry Kane still might or might not be going to Manchester City, but look, you know, your viewers. Sorry, hang on. You want to, hello from Mrs. Bobo as well, by the way. Hello from Mr. Bobo. So your viewers can find all that elsewhere, can't they? So, like, you know, they don't come to us for transfer gosh. They come for hard-hitting, sort of left-leaning analysis, right? Everyone who follows football knows that Manchester City are still trying to sign Kane. What they might not get from legacy media, but can get from us, is an explanation of why all this is happening, right? So why might it be happening? Well, partly because Spurs are one of a number of big European clubs who are experiencing a crisis of profitability. I've written about this in New Socialist. I believe we've got a link to that in the chat. They're not making enough money. The too long don't read. They're not making enough money. Now that's not what you're going to hear from legacy media on this. That's not what you're going to hear from the various mainstream media outlets that cover these clubs. What you're going to hear from them is that the players are too greedy. You're going to hear, oh, COVID has knackered us, generalised economic slowdown, etc., etc. But actually, the problem is that football clubs don't really lend themselves to making lots of money, because you can't really have a football club that people are going to pay to watch unless you pay big wages and big transfer fees. And you've got fans demanding that you do that, right? So even a club like Southampton, we want to be part of this little cartel that is the Premier League, right? That makes its money largely from broadcasting rights, which in turn come from advertising, okay? But even just to do that, even to be part of that little club, that very dodgy little club, you have to be one of the 20 best teams in England. So the truth is that football clubs don't really lend themselves all that well to making lots and lots of money. Now, you might think that given it's the national obsession, someone, somewhere in football media might be pointing this out to these CEOs and dodgy owners, but they don't. Why? Well, this is how it links to the kind of critiques that Bywire has of, for example, the BBC. We've all seen the embarrassing reporting, which I believe we're going to share with viewers, yeah? The embarrassing reporting from people like, but not limited to, the people like Laura Koonsberg, Nick Robinson's just as bad. Bobby Pesto, Robert Peston is just as bad. Stitching up Corbyn while positioning Boris Johnson as, the new Beatles or whatever. And I believe we've got a shot, haven't we, of a classic of the genre. Here we go. Oh, most of us change our minds all the time. This is her explaining why he, messed up and killed a load of people with COVID, right? Maybe this morning you planned to go out for a run. Then actually, when push came to shove, another 10 minutes in bed seemed a better idea. irrefutable evidence of Boris Johnson having murdered hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people, or, well, sorry, hundreds or thousands of people emerges. Well, you know, most of us murder people all the time, don't we? You know, maybe this morning you planned to go for a run, and then actually, when push came to shove, you just murdered someone. So, you know, why is she like this? I'm sure this is not news to anybody who watches your show regularly. Well, she's terrified, and the BBC are terrified of Tory governments. They always have been, because they're scared they'll get rid of the licence fee and privatise it all. But also they're terrified of losing access to government, right? So Dominic Cummings, this sort of bog standard Nick Land right-wing loon who liberal media has turned into this Sun Tzu mind palace wizard Rasputin John of Gaunt guy, when he's really just a sort of moderately sharp strategist who understands what idiots the British media are and told Boris what sort of racism he should do next. Like, Cummings admitted that he would chat to Laura Kuenssberg to guide her coverage of what was going on at Westminster. So we know that the BBC has massive access to the Johnson government because they've got no money for proper reporting. They see that as crucial to sustaining their existence, right? Now, by the same token, we all know that local newspapers are knackered, right? And the main reason most of the people who still buy them is they do so for local football news. Okay, same with local BBC radio. People listen for the football commentary. So if the local media's relationship to the club goes sour and they don't get access, they are snookered. So what ends up happening is they just become PR for the club. You listen to fans, like, you know, they do these fans forums hosted by local BBC radio. The host just says what a great job they're all doing. You know, like my club's been beaten 9-0 twice in the space of 3 years. And, you know, all we hear from sort of like BBC radio silent is, well, they're working very, very hard behind the scenes. Well, you know, the players are. I'm sure the gaffer is. What's going on with the owner? What's going on with the CEO? Really? So, like, that's, you know, and in that sense, these sort of like very high status people. I don't know if you watch wrestling, Dan, or if you've ever watched wrestling. Yeah. Do you remember like those old sort of like interviews with the Rock, where like he'd be doing this time. Like electrifying promos, like with his eyebrow raising, trailblazing, jabroni beating, pie eating, people's champ, yeah, all of that stuff. If you smell, there's a guy holding a microphone, and that guy's job is to look like he is doing a proper interview of The Rock. Like back in the day, even further, you know, you had Mean Gene Okerlund doing the same thing with Hulk Hogan, right? That job, their job is to look like they're conducting like an objective interview.
Well, yeah.
When really their job is to make these guys look cool and hard. Yeah. Now, is Laura Kuenssberg's job really all that different to Michael Cole or Kevin Kelly or Mean Gene? And is the person who covers your football club for the local paper or for local radio any different to Laura Kay's? Well, sadly, probably not. We're like, you know, like voters, football fans, they're really just having the wool pulled over their eyes all the time, and that's really bad because it prevents them from being able to hold the people who are running their clubs accountable. Yeah,
most definitely. Now, do you know what, bruv? You've delivered spot on, man. It's like, wee, Laura Kay's in football. I do love the fact though that we do have the YouTube channels. You know, there's like the Arsenal Fan TV. I think up here we got the Anfield Rap. I don't know many of the other ones because
Anfield Rap's really good.
Yeah, really, really, really good. And well, I like Arsenal Fan TV because
it's hilarious. Just genius. Like,
but then again, where do you go when your club is Arsenal? Where do you go? You go comedy, right?
Yes. Well, I guess. I mean, I don't want to sort of be too. But my whole thing is like we need to sort of like be a bit better at doing solidarity in the world of football, really. So I don't want to be too mean about other clubs. But there is a small part of me, like whenever Arsenal lose, like they lost to Brentford, didn't they? Which was like, no, quite a big story on Friday night because it was live on Sky. I did think to myself, Christ, even if Arsenal Fan TV was like behind a paywall, I'd probably like subscribe to that just to see the reaction of all these kind of like let's say, passionate Arsenal supporters. Like, there's a very funny United one as well, where there was that guy, you've probably seen it, going, "You're a fuel, you're a fuel." To I can't remember who he was saying it to. My mate sent it to me the other day, but like, they are sort of more entertaining, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I don't know how those guys are funded, how independent they are from, and I mean all of them, all the different kind of fan TVs of the football clubs. I don't know how independent they are of the football clubs, but I love that, they will stand outside the stadium after a historic victory or even a historic defeat, and they'll speak to the fans and they'll put that online, not just because it might make viral content, but also because it's the fans. Like, just saying what they think, how they feel. And that is the beauty of football, is that the most beautiful thing in football is the fans, is the people. It's the people who turn up every week, the people who subscribe to all the TV channels and that and watch it. They buy all the shirts. They sit in the pub and watch it every weekend or go and see their mates. That's the most beautiful part of football, is the fans coming together, which perfectly plugs me onto a feature that we have got coming up on the show in a couple of weeks, which is fans supporting food banks. We're going to be going down to Anfield and chatting to them guys, seeing what they're doing in regards to collecting food outside of the football stadium.
Was it Ian Byrne MP was doing some of that stuff, wasn't he? So I've stopped fiddling.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely fine.
Big up Ian Byrne.
Yeah, Ian Byrne and Dave Kelly, they founded it, a blue and a red in a city of two halves. They came together to feed, and I think it was 30% of the food that was coming into North Liverpool food banks during the Premier League season was from football fans turning up outside the stadium. They've gone from the point of literally 2 wheelie bins either side of each stadium every other weekend, every weekend. To now they've got like this massive lorry, they've got vans, they've set up a community shop over in, I think it's Fazakerley or Everton, but then also, you've got the Newcastle fans supporting food banks, I think Manchester, and then the other day I think they had a donation from some Spanish football supporters clubs, and like I said, it's the beauty of the supporters. There is, and like you said, some solidarity in football,
and doing it across club allegiances, that's massive. That gives me hope. Can we plug TWT again real quickly?
Yeah, go on.
All right. So like, we're going to have 2. I can exclusively reveal. We're going to have 2 football related sessions at this year's In Real Life, the World Transformed Festival in Brighton, from the 25th to the 28th of September. The 25th of September is my birthday. Feel free to come and buy me a pint. But also, more importantly, start getting your TWT tickets sorted, start paying it forward to people who can't afford it. Like, there's going to be 2 really good sessions, one hosted by Keir Milburn, who the author of Generation Left, co-host of the ACFM podcast, and a real sort of all-round consciousness raising good egg, and that's going to involve actually playing some small-sided games as well. And then there's also going to be one called In and Against Modern Football, which is more of a sort of a panel-based discussion of like the way forward, and like hopefully answers to some of the questions that we've just been posing, but like maybe involving some kind of like food banky stuff, but also like some other kinds of organising within football. I
love it, man. There's so many plugs, so much going on.
There is.
But the thing is, it's football, right? And I think I said it to you previously. I don't know if I said it on the show, but I grew up without the influence of like a community of or a football community around me. And as I got older, a football community. I live now in one of the biggest footballing cities, maybe in Europe. I don't know, but in the UK, definitely. And it is beautiful. It is a beautiful thing. And I hope that everyone can experience that one day. Listen, Tom, as always, we've gone over our time, but that's fine because that's what we do. Thanks so much for hitting us up. Next week, I'm on leave. So Tom will be doing the show on his own. No. We're taking a week off, guys. It is the bank holiday. It's the run up to the bank holiday weekend. So listen, you guys, have your evenings to yourselves. I'll still be posting stuff on Twitter, but the week after we'll be back with a bang. It is obviously going straight into September. We will be at the World Transformed Festival. We'll be getting coverage from, I think there's a conference next door to the festival. I think they run
some
it as a
barely
fringe.
relevant reactionary weird thing.
Yeah, it's like a fringe to the World Transformed Festival in Brighton. They follow them when the World Transformed go to Liverpool. They follow them and go there as well. But anyway,
that's it. That Keith guy.
Keith, that's the one. I couldn't remember because he does the dynamic implementation of organizing and direct.
The dynamic alpaca murdering guy.
It's real out here, man. But yeah, we will be there. We'll be giving you more info about that. Don't forget, as Corbyn mentioned on the show just last week, was it? So much happens, I forget what day it is most of the time. But we've also got the massive event with Rob Delaney and many others, the Media Reform Coalition, the People's Assembly. The People's Assembly festival, anti-Tory festival outside the Conservative Party conference in Manchester. We'll be covering stuff from there as well. In the meantime, don't forget, you've got all of our Bywire partners. There's the Socialist Think Tank, all the ones that we cover here on the show: Canary, Byline, My Dollarama. I got that. I think I've said that wrong, but check out the podcasts as well. There's loads of podcasts on the Independent Media Association. So we've got you covered for while I'm not here next week. But we will see you the week after, Monday to Thursday at 9 p.m. In the meantime, hit the like button, follow Tom on Twitter. His name's Shirley Mush. And hit us up on YouTube. You know, all of the socials, and bywire.news. We'll keep bringing you the news you know you can trust. Peace and love, people. My name's Dan Lewis. This is On the Bywire.